Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another week. Hi, Barry. How are you today?
Doing well. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very good. So last week we touched on at the end of the show, and it was a pretty hard show, I have to admit. I advise anybody listening today that didn't watch it, if you think for a second you're in a dangerous relationship, please go back and listen to last week's show. But today we are going to talk about trad wives, and it's really interesting. I only just heard this phrase from my daughter-in-law, who has a friend who is engaged right now, and my daughter-in-law is a little concerned at the changes she's seeing in her friend, who has taken on this mantle of being a trad wife. When she gets married, she's going to be a trad wife. So for those that, like me, that may have not have heard about it recently, I thought we'd just go through some of the points to discuss, because I'm often a proponent for traditional roles. I really am, even though I identify as a feminist. I as a feminist, I feel very strongly that the role of being a stay-at-home partner, mother, wife, whatever, that should never be looked down upon. That those are legitimate jobs that people get paid for, being a housekeeper, being a nanny, being a childcare provider, being, a chef, being, all of these things are that's a job, and a very difficult, challenging job most of the time. I mean, it's rewarding, of course, especially as a mother, but often stay-at-home mothers miss the interaction of other adults. It's all very well getting down on the floor and doing a giant jigsaw puzzle with your child, but when you're doing that all day long, it can get a little tiring. But sorry, what were you going to say, Barry?
I can jump in a second. So anybody who's not catching this from the initial thing, the tradwife hashtag started showing up on social media, I would say a few months ago, I believe. I could be wrong, because sometimes hashtags could show up a long time ago, then they become big, a few months later. So the sense of it, what I've seen, is there's mostly young women who've been posting it and commenting about it. And it's this thing where they're looking at, it's almost I'm trying to remember, it wasn't Barbie, it was something else. It was another girl's toy that was a doll that had a house and had an ironing board and had all these things. And it basically was the image of, and these women look like they're doing that. They're acting the outfit on. They're putting on the older looking clothes and the hairstyles to fit a persona that they think is something they want to go back to. And so it's traditional wife values, but it's missing the mark from it. I can tell. And frankly, just to be blunt, it feels like there's some women out there who are following the example, who just don't want to take responsibility for their own lives. They want someone else to do it for them. So that's one supposition I'm putting on the table. Not saying it's right, just saying a supposition I think might be going on.
Yeah, well, maybe that is an easier, route to take. But I'm just going to give you an outline of what I researched and what I think is what this hashtag tradwives is really pointing to. Because, as I said, as a feminist myself, I'm thinking, hey, there's traditional roles that wives and mothers have held that are very, very important. So I don't want to minimize that, but I want to give a fuller picture of what this wives thing is, because there are some parts of it where I have to go, oh my God, stop.
Agreed.
So anyways, so first of all, their primary thing is that they're a homemaker, that they're responsible for managing the household duties and cooking, cleaning, and childcare, which is fine if you choose to do that. If that's the decision you and your partner have made, that your job, because it's a job, is to take care of these things while they're doing a different job. That's one thing. The other one is, and this is where I think it starts getting a little sticky, is that they prioritize supporting their husband's career, and they allow their husbands to be the decision maker. Now that's where I'm like, no, you've gone too far.
Well,
Go
there's
on.
a shift. A couple of things on the first thing you said about how they are choosing to be the traditional wife in a relationship. My suspicion is some of these young women are actually putting in that persona before they even meet anybody. They're not like choosing that in the relationship. They're actually choosing to find a partner who will honor that part of themselves that wants to be in that relationship. Is one part. The second piece, though, you said is it's like it's there's a shift in it. It's like it's not a. You said something the second about it wasn't about choice or something else.
It's
But the
focusing, prioritizing the husband's
yeah
career and
yeah
allowing the husband to be the decision maker.
right,
Simply
and
because
that
he's,
I think is
yeah.
sorry after you.
No, no, simply because he's the one that is leaving the house to have
Hmm.
an external job that brings in an actual income. And
Right.
that's where I have an issue, because it's like, okay, as a traditional homemaker, you may not be bringing in an income, but you are doing 4 or 5 different jobs. As I say, house cleaning, chef,
Hmm.
nanny, all of these are jobs that people get paid for. So, okay, somebody's not paying you, but you are fulfilling the role of many jobs.
But the thing is, though, it's interesting because your perspective on is one thing. My perspective is a little different. So I'm interested how these come together. It's
Yeah.
fun. The thing is, though, again, because I feel like what this is about is that some of these women just have this romantic thought that they'll just be taken care of. So they're not thinking about they're not being the wage earner or doing the responsibility. They just want to be, frankly, like doted on. They have this vision in their minds from whatever they've been watching or been fed on social media that they're looking for somebody who's got it all made. I mean, ideally, they're looking like there were some people on the dating apps. There are women on the dating apps looking for a man who's got all the money so they can be taken care of and pampered and not do anything. And some of these trad wife um, presumptions are not necessarily they want to be the housekeeper and homemaker and be at home. They just don't want to put any effort into living a life. They want to be taken care of completely, and that's a missed opportunity. That's a missed way of doing things.
Well,
So that's a perspective.
continue to go through the list. I hear
Hmm.
what you're saying, and I really do. And I feel for those women, because if you've never been a stay at home mother or run a household or
Hmm.
cooking and the cleaning and the everything else, then you are deluded to thinking that you're going to get an easy life. So,
So so true.
and again, as I said, I think raising a child and being there for your child in whatever capacity is, I think, an incredible honor, and something that is a beautiful thing. That's just me personally. Not saying that
Yeah.
everyone should stay home and raise their children at all. For me, it was something that I did have the privilege of being able to do, just simply because economically, by the time I'd figured out all the other things I was going to have to spend money on to continue in my career, it was actually made more sense for me to stay at home with my child and do a different form of work that I could do from home while I was raising my children. The other
Absolutely.
biggest one for me is being submissive in the marriage, which in believing that you have to subjugate yourself to the authority of your husband, letting besides just being the decision maker, but that he take the lead on everything, and that you need to submit to his will, and that to me is just so dangerous. Um, the other one is, I think you mentioned it, which was quite shocking to me when I read about it, was literally dressing the part, dressing
Hmm.
very sort of old fashioned, very modest, almost 50s type style. It's like it's the sort of the apron and the I mean, it's really quite funny when I saw that. I was like, really? They actually dressed the part too? It's
Hmm.
going back in time. Um, they obviously reject modern feminism, which I don't think it's a black and white decision. As I say, I firmly identify as a feminist, but I
Yeah.
also really value what we do as stay at home mothers and wives. Um, and again, just a lot of this is also religious based. There's a religious aspect to this.
Hmm.
I hear it with my clients. I'm shocked sometimes when I hear how some of my clients' husbands are using religion and God to control their partners.
Yeah.
This is what God wants. This is what God is saying to me. This is what, and I see the subtlety, because there are people that grew up in a strong faith-based, family, and God is very important to them in a traditional sense. I'm more spiritual than God-based or religious-based, but I can see how important that is in them, and I can see that when religion is used to weaponize and to control women, I am like freaks get
Hmm.
me. So,
Absolutely.
and again, that respecting the difference of genders, and you and I have had our sort of butting heads over this a bit sometimes about the masculine and the feminine, because I'm of the belief that we all have masculine and feminine within all of us, and some of us women act more masculine than men, and vice versa. So I don't think it's necessarily just sort of you know gender differences. I think it's qualities of our personality that can come out. And I think
Well,
I've talked with you before too about having a friend that was a producer and her husband was a director of photography, and they decided between them that he would make the better stay-at-home parent. Again,
mhm.
because they factored in the costs of childcare and the costs of everything, and it made more sense for one parent to stay home.
This is one of the things. Actually, this brings up a point. A lot of this trad wife marketing, social media posting, everything else misses one of the pieces, which is, do they find traditional trad husbands?
Mm,
Because about this conversation is it's about these girls, women who are perceiving that they want this value system to be in a relationship when they get married, to have this stay at home or pamper, whatever it is, presumes that the man they're looking for is going to be one agreeable and two is going to their values to have that happen. And from my experience, there's no hashtag out there saying trad husband.
mm,
So like it's an imbalanced thing. So I don't know if this is going to be a fad or if it's a long term thing. But the truth is that I feel like personally, as a society, particularly the Western world, we've evolved beyond that. So to go back to that is definitely going back into more puritanical, like say, religious viewpoints that I feel like we've grown beyond, or at least we've seen beyond, so we
mm,
can see an alternative choice. And yes, there are some um, views within the traditional Christian values system, which is showing up in politics too in this country at the moment, but they're holding women in a place that's not necessarily the most supportive or honorable. So this, and my mind's going to conspiracy theories now. It's like, well, maybe they started this, and maybe that happened because this stuff is like doing a little the red thread all over the wall. It's like, no, hang a second. The trad wife discussion we're talking about here, what that actually means for reality, but also what it might be missing. And so, regardless of whether or not there's some ulterior motive happening, this is the truth: is that this hashtag is hitting a lot of female viewers a certain way that maybe they didn't think about before, and maybe they're sort of wondering maybe they should choose it as well. You know?
yeah. Well, I think there's so much here. There's so much to discuss and to cover. And I've said, well, because I think that, you know, clearly, okay, go back to the 50s and that traditional role. And I certainly wasn't raised by a traditional woman at all. So I had a
Right.
few different upbringing. I did not witness, a submissive woman with a powerful husband at all. My mother was a very, very powerful woman who ran her own life on her own terms. Some
Hmm.
of it good, some of it not so good. But she certainly wasn't a traditional trad wife by any means. But I also feel, and I've said this many times, I feel that women have the extreme from going from that valuing a woman's role in the home, valuing the job she does, to, I love it when people say, oh, from a CEO to a housewife, like the housewife is the lowest of the low. Drives me
Right.
nuts because
Yeah.
it's so derogatory, and I really have an issue with that. But what I was going to say is that also I think women have been fed a you can have it all. And not just that you can have it all, but you should have it all. And if
Yes.
you're not making your way in the world outside of the home, that if you're not, have a professional or whatever it is, then you're not of value. And that's the only
Mm.
way you're valued, is to be something outside of the home. And I disagree with that because, again, as I said, I think it's devaluing what a stay-at-home um, parent does, and use the word parent because, as I said, it can be male or female. But stay-at-home parent is a legitimate job. But having said that, and on the tail end of last week's show where I talked about, my friend Alessia Sinkova, and um, I I do see that if a woman has, as in my case, I was a costume designer before I got married. Once I got married, it didn't, because it was such a taxing job and away on locations and crazy hours, and there was going to be no consistency for my child. And I worked till the day I gave birth to my eldest son. um, I decided, or my husband and I decided, that I was going to give up work and become a stay-at-home parent. And I did other things. I worked from home, as I said. But the danger of that, and there is a danger, when you give up that outside independence, that in a long-term marriage where you've let your profession go, you've let your earning capacity go in the outside world, that if that relationship doesn't work out, or if it's abusive, or if it ends in divorce, those women are often left in a very vulnerable position because they, as I said, they have given up their independence in a way. So it's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. As much as I really am for, if possible, one parent. I'm not saying you have to be at home the whole time, but if there was a part-time position or something, I mean, that's what I would always encourage for any woman considering being a stay-at-home mother, is to have some type of part-time position so she retains her independence in the relationship.
Speaking of independence, just to wake up anybody thinking about the trap being the romantic, rosy-eyed thing of being way it used to be back in the old days. Back in the old days, women didn't have the right to vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in the old back in the old days, women did not have the right to have a bank account or even a credit card of their own without permission from their husband.
Yeah.
Women had so little in terms of freedoms and rights back in that traditional values time, which unfortunately is still being purported by certain people on the extreme puritanical Christian viewpoints, is unfortunately what the whole picture looks like. So if you're looking at the traditional trad wife idea as being very an ideal or a vision, know what goes with it, the price you pay for it.
Mhm.
So just be clear that what you want to choose for yourself, it may be an idealized, that'll be fun to do, or that'd be nice to have, but notice what you'll be giving up to do it.
Yeah.
So you've got to weigh both sides.
Yeah, at 100%. And again, we're not saying that those traditional roles are to ever be diminished or overlooked. But the part that I said that really, because again, I think those roles are wonderful. I love to cook. I love to keep a house.
Mhm.
I love to raise my children. I loved all of those things. But the part that really concerns me in this trad wife resurgence is this, acquiescing to your husband, letting him take the lead, letting him be the authority. That is where I'm like, no, you both are doing equal jobs. You're both doing valuable jobs. Being out in the world, bringing in an income is a valuable role. Staying at home, taking care of your children, cooking, cleaning, whatever it is a valuable role. And you can do those roles, but you can still absolutely respect each other and value each other, and not think that one has to be ahead of the other and the other one has to take a lesser role or a less important role in the marriage.
Right. By the way, that's the thing earlier I missed earlier. The thing is, in the trad wife viewpoint, it's not about letting the husband, it's making the husband take the lead, which is a whole different energy, so to speak. It's like you're forcing the man to do certain things he may not be wanting to do. So definitely this is a challenging topic to just throw out there. It's like, oh, just do this, it'll be fine. It's like, no, there's more to it than that,
Well,
you know?
trust me, I think there's a lot of men. There's a lot of men, and I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to get political. That you don't have to force to be the leader, to be in control, to be, they're, they're very, very happy to take on that role of having, in their eyes,
full
a,
dominion,
a what, sorry?
full dominion, so to speak.
Yes, exactly. Full dominion over, their finances, the choices they make about everything, and then to leave the children to the mother, or to
Yeah.
leave the household chores to the mother. And so I think it's more about really coming into a relationship, seeing each other as absolute equals, and then you divvy up. what it takes to make a household work. Uh,
Absolutely.
and those, as I said, the divvying up could be like, hey, you had the potential to bring in more money in the outside world. Can you do this? Oh, rather than pay for childcare and this and housekeeping and everything, maybe one of the parents is going to stay at home. But it's coming together, really respecting each other and respecting all of those jobs, and then divvying them up equally.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, and we talked about this for a long time before. It's about having the autonomy and the respect of each other, where in some ways you're equal partners. Not that you do everything the same or you do everything all at once. Is you do have that give and take, and you have that relationship where it's like, I want to do this part, you want to do that part, and you work things out. But the trad wife seems to indicate that the women choosing it are abdicating their responsibility to be an equal partner, and they're saying make the man do all the things that they don't want to do. That's again where the imbalance happens, and so this hashtag, I feel, is going to lead it down a very dark path ultimately to where nobody's going to win.
Mm,
So having, as you said, the equality of partners where you get to choose how to play together and what you choose to take on is really what makes relationship work in the first place. Is why we talk about this in the work.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you see, because I actually, when I first heard about the trad wife, there was a part of me that thought, okay, great. So traditional, what we consider traditional household, things that women have done and not been recognized for are now going to be recognized and appreciated. But I can see that you have a whole other take on it. That
I,
this,
I'm basing it on videos I've seen and these little quick things that sounds that you can sort of go literal over them and they make them all look pretty, but the underlying message feels so dark and so dark's the wrong word. I'm seeing it as dark because I'm sensing that they're missing the boat. They're missing the understanding of what's going on. So I definitely see that side of things, of course. And so yeah, I understand where you're coming from too about having to understand that it's about such an honor to that traditional wife values are being looked at ideally clearly, which unfortunately I don't think they are, but whether they be looked at with such respect and reverence for what women have done for so many years. Because I absolutely agree with you. What women do if they are the home keeper, the housekeeper, the caretaker of the whole thing, their work, their job is massive, but it's multifaceted, unlike the man's that's normally doing one thing only. So
Mhm.
you're definitely some balance there. But I think the trad wife label is missing the boat on that, frankly.
Okay, I'm gonna have to click on some of those videos about it. But again, exactly. As soon as I came across the sort of submissiveness and everything, I was like, no, no, this is not what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's about
Absolutely.
elevating our position in life, as our roles in life, and giving us more choices. And again, there's nothing wrong with going out to work and having a housekeeper and a nanny and things like that if you are spending quality time with your kids. And some people,
Absolutely.
you know, um, are better when they leave the house for a few hours. They're better parents. They have more patience.
Yes,
They're
indeed.
so again, there's no criticism with whatever works for you. But again, I think my main thing is respect and honoring the role that everybody plays within that relationship and within that family.
And again, as an add-on to that is also no assumptions happen between the partners that when you come together in a relationship, you actually talk about what do you expect yourself to be having to do, and also what do you expect the other person to be doing. So you do actually have a common ground, a conversation. We're not assuming, well, they're going to do that. I know they're going to do that, so I'll just do this, which is a dangerous place to be in any relationships to make assumptions. But that's what happens is that when you come in with a certain perspective, you may not see the whole picture. So definitely having a real conversation with your partner about what you expect, what you want to give, what you want to receive, and how you want to play together. Absolutely required.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really interesting. As we're talking, I've got a whole thing going on in the back of my head here because I married into a very Southern Italian traditional patriarchal family, and
Mhm.
initially I didn't see it because I was, as I say, a costume designer at the time, and my ex was like, "Oh my God, you work with all these celebrities, and wow," and had me on the pedestal. And when we made the decision between both of us that it made more sense for me to stay at home with the children, that dynamic shifted immediately. And then I
Right.
felt that I was constantly fighting to defend my various roles, my roles as the one parent that changed the diapers. There was never one single, not even a wet one, that was ever changed. Or my role to get up in the middle of the night when they were little, the feedings, the taking care of them. And I think I didn't sleep a night through until my youngest was 7, because they just wake up in the night. So there was certain things that I was happy doing because my ex was out there working and bringing in an income, but I definitely I struggled to get recognition for the jobs I was doing and the role I was playing. It was definitely that was when the dynamic shifted in our relationship, very much so. It went
Yeah.
to him completely seeing me as subservient because I wasn't out in the world bringing in the income in, and it didn't matter how much I tried to point out what I actually did. There was just no value put on it, which I
Mhm.
that's what I'm fighting for as a feminist, is to have those traditional roles be recognized and be appreciated and seen as equally as important as going out in the world and bringing in a paycheck.
And being respected, absolutely. That's the thing is, I mean, women have unfortunately gone without respect for so many years, and that's why I agree with you. This thing of the leaving it behind is an error in approach because it is inclusive. That the feminist and femininity movement has not always included everything that came before,
Mhm.
and that rich history, that rich um, effort that's been provided by women for so many years should definitely be included as part of what makes women so amazing and is honored and respected from the male side of the conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm going to say is again, harking back on last week's show, is that in any relationship where you sense, and as I said, I didn't sense it in the beginning because I was working in a high profile job, bringing in money, bringing in status as far as, my ex was concerned. But as soon as that dynamic shifted and I became at home, um, the, the room for, I'll use the word loosely, um, abusive behavior, taking for
Hmm.
granted another person, thinking that you have power over the person, control over the person. If any of that is happening in your relationship, like, do not give up your independence. Do not give up that ability to make your own money so that if you need to get out, you can get out a lot easier than if you have become somebody that is totally relying on a one income from the other person, because again they have control, they can do whatever they want with the finances and hide it from you and manipulate and control. So please, retain your independence. That's the bottom line. Whatever role you take, retain your independence.
Yeah, that gets back to boundaries we talked about before and other things as well. So definitely, this is opening up aspects to other conversations we've already had and stuff we talked about. So definitely feel this is something we wanted to bring into conversation because it isn't just, to be blunt, it's not just a hashtag. It means a lot more than that. So this way, it's been such a good conversation.
Wonderful. Okay, that's another week, Barry. Love chatting with you.
Light conversations, yeah, they're no fun. They're all just like topics we talk about every time. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks,
Take
Barry.
care. Thank you, Dale. See you next week.
Bye bye.
We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.